things just got a whole lot more interesting for the Edmonton Oilers as they begin their 3-game stretch without their star player, their captain, Connor McDavid, after his suspension. And that begins tonight against the Washington Capitals, and we'll preview that one for you. But we've also got some McDavid news before that. Of course, can't get enough of Connor McDavid this week and his shenanigans. But first, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, folks, make sure you do so. Hit that subscribe button. 5 off from 2,600 and 405 off from 3,000. So again, if you haven't done so already, this Oilers season getting more interesting by the day, and we'll be here to cover each and every single piece of news that hits this team. But without further ado, the plot McThickens. Yes, the NHL did hand Connor McDavid and Tyler Myers of the Vancouver Canucks both 3-game suspensions, and they will miss the Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers. Both of them will miss their game on Thursday against each other, sort of to, the NHL, I should say, not the Oilers, putting some water on those flames. But the NHL, a bit of a funny league because, of course, both getting 3 games for high sticking, when something like this, a 2-hand slash, to the head from Jacob Trouba, got a $500,000 fine, even though I think his punishment was getting traded to the Anaheim Ducks later on down the road. But even Leon Draisaitl had this to say, not just for suspending McDavid, but also Tyler Myers, who says, I think 3 games is a little too much for either side. I guess we don't overly care about having our best players in the league in the game. So Leon Draisaitl, not a stranger to dropping a bombshell on the media when it comes to, giving his thoughts on it. And of course, I have no choice but to agree with Leon Draisaitl here. I know in my past 2 videos, I've, voiced my displeasure, not just with the Department of Player Safety, but also with the NHL and their attempt to protect the officiating crews in the league, good or bad. But Chris Johnson here, while there was disappointment with the 3-game suspension Connor McDavid was levied by the Department of Player Safety, an oxymoron in its own. They're a department, but player safety, not so much. The Oilers captain has decided not to appeal that decision per sources. But McDavid missed 3 games due to injury earlier this season, but the Oilers survived, going 2-0-1. However, they are 4-6-1 without McDavid since the start of the 2021-22 season. There's even more news coming out of, McDavid in his camp from the Too Much Hockey podcast, a familiar, Twitter account on Oilers Digest here. They are hearing that McDavid and his camp are strongly considering scaling back their NHL Tour events, such as media interviews, to push things for the league. This was communicated before to the NHL because of the lack of protection these superstar players get in this league. Of course, saw a stat last night. Of course, not too many superstars in the NHL, get the calls, drawn on them. You could hack, you can slash, you can hold them all day, but the NHL just will not call that. All the pests in the NHL when it comes to penalties drawn, they make up the top 10 anyways. Brad Marchand is first in penalties drawn this year, and that just goes to show the NHL officiating. But that tweet sort of made the rounds when it came to not just Edmonton media, but the hockey world in itself. And there was some water on those flames from TSN's Ryan Rishaug. Said some suggestions out there that McDavid could or should scale back his involvement in league activities / media as protest over the suspension. My understanding is that's not his headspace at all. He'll continue to conduct himself the same as he always has, and that doesn't really surprise me at all. McDavid, throughout his not just junior career, but NHL career as well, he's not really been that petty. And I think, to set out stuff like that, of course, the league, they've done so many things wrong, but I think the Oilers, in McDavid, if he sits out, that would just be putting a bigger target on his back, especially, if he, even dared to set out the Four Nations face-off. The Canadian in him wouldn't allow him to do that. Of course, this will probably be the last time that he plays with a somewhat good Sidney Crosby, because you never know how Sidney Crosby is going to be in 2026 in Italy in the Olympics there, because of course it'll be the bigger ice, the Four Nations face-off, NHL-sized ice. This will be probably the one and only time you see, again, Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid both at the top of the mountain, the very peak. So for McDavid, again, set that out, I wouldn't blame him. There's a small part of me that wouldn't blame him, but again, that would just be putting a bigger target on his back. So hopefully we can move past the whole McDavid suspension thing, but the Oilers will not have to, as they will have to begin their first of 3 games without him. Preheating the Ovi. Yes, Washington and Alexander Ovechkin will be rolling into Rogers Place tonight to take on the Edmonton Oilers. Should be a good one. Of course, both teams near the top of the league standings, and the Oilers lineup will look a little different without Connor McDavid. Of course, the first line with Vasily Podkolzin, Leon Draisaitl, and Victor Arvidsson. And then when it came to Jeff Skinner, Kris Knoblauch said that spot beside Nugent-Hopkins and Hyman, it'll be sort of, a rotation before the official lineups come out tonight. You could see, Kasperi Kapanen there. You could see Jeff Skinner there. You could see any one of those three on the left-hand side below Vasily Podkolzin. You could see them in that second line left wing spot. But for now, projected Jeff Skinner, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Zach Hyman. Hopefully that is not touched. Mattias Janmark, Adam Henrique, and Connor Brown. And lastly here, Kasperi Kapanen, Noah Philp, in Corey Perry. So hopefully this will be a good chance for Jeff Skinner to get some more minutes with the exclusion of Connor McDavid in tonight's lineup. And not only does he get tonight, but he gets two other shots to sort of prove himself. Before what else could happen with Jeff Skinner. Of course, many are saying for the Oilers to trade him, but Jeff Skinner, no move clause. That was pretty much the reason he came to Edmonton, and I don't think they will force him to waive that ahead of March 7th. And then lastly here on the blue line, nothing's really changed. Mattias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard, Darnell Nurse and Troy Stetcher, and Brett Kulak and Ty Emberson, with Stuart Skinner getting the start tonight. Of course, the Oilers this morning had an optional skate, and you saw Alec Regula and John Klingberg out with the Oilers coaching staff, sort of, getting a feel on the ice again. Of course, Leon Draisaitl showed praise for John Klingberg after the McDavid comment, saying, in his time in Dallas, he's probably one of the best offensive defensemen in the league. And of course, his hip mobility issues, getting that all fixed, should see him get back to hopefully a regular side of John Klingberg. And Kris Knoblauch had this to say about Leon Draisaitl. He said, Leon is a very competitive person. He expects a lot out of himself. I think he enjoys these challenges. And the 3 games without Connor McDavid so far this season, Leon Draisaitl in 3 games, it's pretty much 2 games. Of course, they got shut out by Jake Allen in the New Jersey Devils back at the top of November. 6 points in 2 games, 2 goals and an assist against the Nashville Predators, as is tradition for Leon Draisaitl. And again, another 3 points against the Calgary Flames. So 2 big opponents for Leon Draisaitl, sort of, make his case for the Hart Trophy this year. I think he is a top candidate for that. Of course, Connor Hellebuyck is doing Connor Hellebuyck things in Winnipeg, but Leon Draisaitl with again another chance to prove himself, why he is not just the 1B on the Edmonton Oilers, and why he is one of the best players in this league. And of course, the 3 games without Connor McDavid earlier this year, the Oilers really only outplayed in 1 against the Calgary Flames November 3rd there, but they did lead the shot counter 28-26. So, of course, the Oilers without McDavid, it's more of a next man up mentality, and I don't see why the Oilers couldn't have more of that tonight. But a bigger storyline here, Alex Ovechkin, 21 goals away from the all-time record held by Edmonton's own Wayne Gretzky there. So that'll be a huge one, and not just the headline of Ovechkin and the Gretzky chase, but the Capitals top of the NHL. You'll have to go back to the calendar year of 2024 to go back to their last loss, in regulation, I should add. Of course, they've lost 3 more times, but that has been in a shootout or overtime. But their last regulation loss, December 29th against the Detroit Red Wings, a 4-2 loss. But after that, big wins against the Bruins, the Rangers, the Canucks, and they've rattled off 4 straight against Nashville, Anaheim, Ottawa, and Pittsburgh. So the Oilers, especially without McDavid, a tall task. Just looking at the Washington Capitals here in their lineup, Alexander Ovechkin, who certainly is defeating Father Time here with, again, his the road to beating Gretzky. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He is putting up fantastic numbers at 39 years of age, right next to Dylan Strome and Connor McMichael, Alexis Protas, Pierre-Luc Dubois, who you were all familiar with from his time in Los Angeles, next to Tom Wilson, Taylor Radish, Lars Eller, and Ethan Frank, who's been called up from the Hershey Bears, and he's been pretty productive for the Capitals in that bottom 6 with his speed. And then lastly here, Brandon Duhaime, Nick Dowd, and Andrew Mangiapane. On the back end here, Rasmus Sandin, John Carlson, Jacob Chikrin, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, and Martin Ferravari, and Matt Waugh. And If you thought that was good, you should see who is starting in net for them tonight. Logan Thompson with a goals against average of 2.09 and a save percentage of 925 in his past 5 games there. Other than the Habs game on January 10th, he has been fantastic, and he was named the NHL's first star of the week for the previous week. I mean, a 947, a 970, and 2 straight shutouts. Just fantastic numbers. And I think the part that, shocks me the most about this is he wasn't even named to Canada's Four Nations face-off roster. Let that sink in, folks. Just brutal management. But the Capitals, again, they are a juggernaut in the NHL. Not only are they tied for second with 164 goals for, so the second in the NHL, tied with the Tampa Bay Lightning, only behind the Winnipeg Jets, but they are also second in goals against, only allowing 112 compared to, and they're only 3 behind the LA Kings, but the Oilers also in this list at 6th with 126. So more so, Draisaitl, Ovechkin tonight should be a fantastic one. Skinner, Thompson, a battle of Team Canada snubs. Skinner has been pretty solid as of late, so should be a fantastic one even without 97. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the whole McDavid situation and the rumor of him, not wanting to really cooperate with the league, but again, it would just be putting a bigger target on his back if, he decided to not cooperate with the league at all. Make sure to subscribe here to the channel, folks, and we will be back tomorrow with an Oilers Capitals recap. Hopefully it's a fun one to talk about. Enjoy the game tonight, folks. Take care. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and let's go Oilers.